but you can't get a crumb from the poetic, authentic, superior, ultimate, and all that good shit. I'm the original Asiatic, acrobatic, there you have it. Now get dramatic, creating drama when I'm on the scene, and I pack a mean like Bruce Springsteen. I provide a style that's mild and meanwhile put on trial a rap pile to exile, make it tumble and stumble, and a rumble just crumble, and I'm still calm and humble. You need another helping hand to swing on. I stand alone, but still you gotta bring on your Batman and Robin, Cagney and Lacey, Starsky and Hutch, but they still can't face me. And if I may make this one thing here clear, that's for you not to come near, period. For I ain't bugging on delirious. My swift tongue's like a sword, that's how severe it is. And I can slice and dice a Fisher Price MC that thought he was nice into minute rice. Single-handed, I ain't with that band stuff, cause see I scratch a record like flakes of dandruff. And the mic I ravage, not like a savage, but in my own way of doing damage, as I design a genuine line. Now who flat top rules in 89? Warm it up, King, 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 warm it up, King. Take two of the man with soul that you probably know. Deli a Scarface, but bright as a Cosby Show. Don't attack rappers, but make everyone hush. They step to me, but can't stop the bum rush. I make material rich and imperial. The unique technique I speak is all original. You like to sag and drag and gag, same old, but Papa's got a brand new bag. So put the mic down, boy, you can't work it. Do the whack lyrics, it's bout to short circuit. So toss the source, of course, to the boss. No remorse, you're lost with force. I cause a holocaust. First I caught you, then put you to torture. You move wrong, my son, so I torture. Just like a guardian. And put your body in the move, the groove with the smooth way that I'm partying. Competition may find it spectacular. Scheming fiend to take a bite like Dracula. And waste the taste, cause ain't no sugar here. So come near if you dare, you booger bear. You start hallucinating like magic. The rap gets tragic and Kane won't have it. Cause you tried to juice me when you're bluffing. Slowed the pace, so I had to start rushing. So pick a BC date, cause your history. Here comes Kane, Scoop, Scrap J, and Mr. C. And this is one thing to us, we ain't noodle. The crew cast spell in the crowd just like voodoo. I'm the man you can't hold back. And all competition appeared to be weak. I meant to say whack, a vision of blur. Just to thinking I'm competing, I say, ha! Warm it up, King, 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 warm it up, King. Genuine for 89, you know what I'm saying? As I give a shout out to my man Tony A, Tony P, Sally Sal, and the whole Libra Digital posse. Can't forget my man Yarn Ski and Smoother Barber, you know what I'm saying? Also, I gotta say what's up to Born True, B-Boy, and my man Big JC. The whole rest of the crew, School Lover, my brother, Scrap Lover, and DJ Mr. C. Can't forget Supreme, Abu, Melquan and Shabazz, Wally D, and the rest of the brothers. And of course my little brother, the little daddy Shane. Mandatory end of the story, you know what I'm saying? Peace.
Lesson on the beat.
Sway.
Banger. I'm amped up for this tango. Now you see where that chain go. Chain gang off that mainframe for my main thing like Django. Bout a nigga like Shango. Old school with that can't go. Right hand on my buckle, bitch. Left hand, hang low. Whip part, but it swang though. Do you know what that 6P do? Dust fly up like a fool in the truck, and you lanes can't figure how the pain bleed through. Wave on the track like a 6C do. Chip look mean and the drip see through. I'ma get mad on this beat till you niggas running for your van at the feet. Talking to your man when you see him in the street. I ain't no less, had to bless. Play so hard you can feel it in your chest. Nigga, what it do? Now your crew wanna ask what's next. I'ma break it down. Time by the boatload with the fofo till you no show. And I'm puffing on that cocoa till I go slow. If you sleep, motherfucker, take no dose. Better keep it low pro. If you wanna fake how the folk go, catch you on the track, run it down on the whole stretch. Motherfucker, go it on top like Flojo. Till you know mo. Saying it's a no go. All real in the game when you find out that you so.
Greetings, fight fans. Greetings, everyone. We would like to thank you for joining us. And You are now with the DMVCS, and you are in the Clinch.
Clinch.
Each and every Sunday here, 8 p.m. on WLVS Radio. We are stateside in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Worldwide on ListenVisionLive.com. You know what it is. Yo, man, it's Lesson, of course. To my right, the man, the place to be, Manny Z, as always. Yo, man, we want to thank you for taking a little bit of time of your Sunday evening to holler at your boys a little bit about combat sports. Man, we've been gone for a little bit. But we're back because, of course, it was another event last night, UFC 179, Aldo-Mendes 2. We're going to talk about that, take a look back at UFC 179. We are also going to take a look at Bellator 130, happened earlier on this week. And then we're going to recap all MMA news, rumors, event recaps, and everything else coming out of the fight world. Tonight, WWE Hell in a Cell. So we want to hear your thoughts about that. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter at DMVCS, also at DMVCS2 on Instagram, Facebook, DMVCS Radio, Google+, also DMVCS Combat Sis. Make sure you're following us on that and our YouTube page. You can see a lot of our shows posted there.
And also on Vine at DMVCS.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Make sure you highlight us. We want to hear your thoughts not only about WWE Hell in a Cell, but we also want to hear your thoughts about UFC 179 and some of the things we're going to talk about today. Of course, it's been a very active month in mixed martial arts and combat sports, Manny. So we're going to get right to it, man. We want to hear from you guys at DMVCS on Twitter. Make sure you hit us up. So, a lot has happened over the last month, Manny, and we're going to start right here with the news. First piece of news coming out about a new matchup for UFC 182 is going to take place on January 3rd, again in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. That is, of course, UFC 182, which will be the finally long-awaited matchup of John Jones versus Daniel Cormier. That matchup, though, added to the card will be Nate Marquardt and Brad Tavares. They will be facing off. Marquardt, of course, got back on track in June with a performance of the night submission of James Tahuna. That was the main event of UFC Fight Night 43 in New Zealand. The fight was his return to the middleweight division after a run at welterweight that ultimately saw him drop 3 straight fights, including giving up the 170 title. After that, he had back-to-back knockout losses to Jake Ellenberger and Hector Lombard in the return to the UFC. Now, Tavares is just season 11 Ultimate Fighter, Manny. Yep. Will look to get back on track after back-to-back losses to Yoel Romero and Tim Boetsch. The latter loss coming at UFC Fight Night 47 in Maine. The losses came after a 5-fight winning streak and wins in his first 8 UFC bouts. So that's added to the card, Manny. And now we have Jones versus Cormier, Ronda Rousey versus Kat Zingano for the women's bantamweight title. You also have Josh Bergman versus Hector Lombard, Marquardt versus Tavares, Rodrigo Dam versus Evan Dunham. Also, Jared Cannonier versus Sean Jordan and Luis Gaudino versus Kyoji Horiguchi. So this is added to this now. Marquardt getting back onto his winning ways, and Tavares now having back-to-back losses. This is going to be a critical bout for him at UFC 182. So, also, we saw, Manny, this week news of the of injuries now muddling the UFC 182. It's been injury after injury this past couple of weeks. As a result. The original headlining bout was supposed to be the heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez taking on Fabricio Werdum. That was going to be for the heavyweight title, and Velasquez suffered a knee injury, had surgery this week, successful surgery. He is out for that event now, and now it's Fabricio Werdum who will be facing Mark Hunt for the interim heavyweight title now at UFC 180. And also 2 other injuries this week. Joe Lozon, who was going to be scheduled to face Diego Sanchez, is now out, and now Sanchez himself is out. Both of those injuries happened this week and then were reported this week. They made the announcement on Thursday night. Sanchez was awaiting word of a new opponent after Lozon was forced out. Now, he had been himself a replacement for Norman Parker, who was supposed to face Diego Sanchez. But he in turn
got hurt himself. I mean, and then on top of that, what was also untold is that Fabricio Werdum almost actually died because of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy.
Right before his championship fight.
Now, that takes UFC 180. UFC 180 will be on November 15th in the Mexico City Arena. And this is big because Velasquez was going to be the draw there because, of course, we know he's the first Mexican heavyweight champion in the history of the UFC. And he was going to be the main draw there, being as though he is the pride of Mexico. And he will not be there now.
No.
Now, Velasquez had an injury, forced him to withdraw. In his place goes Mark Hunt, who will take on Verdum for the interim title. Now, Sanchez as well was the Ultimate Fighter #1, and then he also won a very controversial split decision against Ross Pearson, which a fight many people thought he actually lost. That's not he actually a 2-fight skid where he had losses to both Miles Jury.
Well, the true fight fans out there know that saw that Ross Pearson fight that Diego Sanchez should have been taken away in handcuffs tonight because he stole
stealing that fight. Exactly. So, and also he had losses to Miles Jury and Gil Melendez. And now the card at UFC 180, which was looking pretty good, now looks like this. Mark Hunt versus Fabricio Verdum. Also Jake Ellenberger versus Kelvin Gastelum. Dennis Bermudez versus Ricardo Lamas. And now Edgar Garcia versus Hector Urbina. As well as now whoever's going to take over for Diego Sanchez and Joe Lozon. That'll probably be dropped from the card. But you now see a card that has been reduced to nothing, Manny.
Yeah.
And for Mexico City and UFC in Mexico City, you got to think that's going to be a pretty disappointing loss, because now you know the event's going to be a little bit affected by the fact that now.
Well, I think we have to go beyond is just a little bit affected anytime your championship fight and majority of your undercard is now out.
Yeah, so
it's starting to look like Dillashaw versus Soto all over it.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep you updated on news from UFC 180 as we get them. Of course, we'll be having a recap for that coming up in the weeks after that event happens. Now, news also this past a few weeks ago that UFC middleweight Kung Lee was suspended by the UFC for failing a post-fight drug test after he was spectacularly lost to Michael Bisping. That was UFC Fight Night 48. They suspended him originally for 1 year, and now they have rescinded his 1 year suspension for what they call an elevated level of human growth hormone. In a statement that they released, this is MMA Junkie story, Lee said he was extremely happy with the promotion's decision to reverse his punitive action toward him, but added that a statement released yesterday that the news fell short of the mark. He said while he felt vindicated in the matter, the UFC press release does little in the way of an apology, of which I believe I'm rightly owed after unfairly enduring the public scrutiny. Now, he was, of course, bashed about this because he not only was he spectacularly knocked out, but he also...
He was beaten.
Yeah. And
viciously.
But not only that, but then you failed the post-fight drug test, so you were supposedly on drugs and you still lost?
Well, yeah, I mean, no, not to sound offensive to our listeners out there, but basically he pulled the Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
You know, you doped up and you still lost, so it's kind of like... It's sort of like he pulled a half Chael Sonnen and hash Vitor Belfort with a little Kung Lee mixed in the middle.
With a little bit of Kung Lee mixed in the middle.
Yeah, it kind of was. I mean, I just don't know with these fighters, you know, whether they're failing the drug test or not. It's just still, how do you not know what you're putting in your body before you go out there and compete?
Exactly.
It just really.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if he has any bouts coming in the near future. We'll have to keep our eyes on that with Kung Lee. Now, a upcoming bout now for a guy who's been red hot in UFC now, Conor McGregor, will be taking on Dennis Siver. They tapped the event for the UFC event in Boston, which could take place on January 18th at Boston's TD Garden. Now, McGregor 16-2 in MMA, 4-0 since coming over to the UFC. Dennis Siver 22-9 and 11-6 in the UFC. And it hasn't been confirmed quite yet, but it's being tapped right now for that. So McGregor ranked number 8 in the USA Today Sports MMA Junkies featherweight rankings. Siver isn't ranked. At the January 18th event falls on a Sunday. It could follow the NFL's NFC Championship game on Fox and air on Fox Sports 1. Sources closest to the event told MMA Junkie earlier this week. They said a lightweight matchup is already rumored for this event for Donald Cerrone to face off against Miles Jury, Manny.
Now that is going to be a good old-fashioned barn burner fight.
Absolutely.
Christmas came early.
Now, UFC President Dana White has said that McGregor was on a fast track for a shot at the belt, despite only 4 appearances in the octagon, and they recently said he would gladly fight again before a title shot. Now, McGregor added another potential opponent for his future. He told Chaz Mendez on his appearance beyond the octagon. Dennis Siver previously expressed interest in fighting Gregor earlier this month, telling Kamikaze TV he would knock out the outspoken fighter. And McGregor has been that since he's been in the UFC. He's been a guy who's been very impressive, but has also ran his mouth a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't try to disrespect him or disrespect his fans, but I'm like, you talk a lot for a guy who hasn't won a world title yet.
Yeah, he is a very cocky guy. And
well, I mean, we saw that in his last fight. He just, I knew I was going to get the first round.
He kind of toyed around when he fought earlier. Against
until you dethrone Jose Aldo, then I'll believe the hype.
Well, now there's even saying now that he said last night he was expected to be sitting cage side with Aldo-Mendes too, and now it's even saying that he could be on the fast track to get a shot at Jose Aldo for that title. So we'll see what happens, but he has to get past Dennis Siver first, January 18th in Boston.
Dennis Siver, again, despite the fact another fighter failing another failed drug test for some God no reason.
Yeah, that was against that was a win against Manny Gambierian at UFC 168.
He smashed the anvil, but again he was doped up.
Exactly.
He was the Super Saiyan fight.
Elevated HCG in his post-fight test. So now McGregor.
Oh yeah, that's the same stuff that I believe was Canseco tested for.
Yeah,
human female cow growth hormone.
So
yeah,
they now it was Dustin Poirier that Conor McGregor knocked out first round TKO, had his fourth straight win. So we'll keep an eye on that with Siver and McGregor at January 18th at the Boston TD Garden. Now the UFC 184 is the scheduled target for Weidman and Belfort. That was originally supposed to be UFC 181 until Chris Weidman suffered an injury and is being postponed. And UFC informed the California State Athletic Commission of the possible date. So the permission is yet to submit a formal event request, what is likely to be UFC 184. Now, after an initial postponement due to injury, the middleweights are expected to clash in Las Vegas sometime in early 2015, and Belfort agreed as a condition of his licensure that he wouldn't fight anywhere else. But according to the Nevada State Athletic Commission, the UFC couldn't secure a venue for the proposed date and informed the commission it was moving the fight to California. Now, this is important because he's going to have to pass a drug test, and he was going to have to pass an NASC drug test in February, coming up before the event in order to be able to fight. Now, it's moving to California, and he had agreed that he wouldn't fight anywhere else but Las Vegas. So now the drug testing is now up in the air.
Yeah, but again,
and whether or not it's going to happen.
This was a guy, for especially our younger fight fans out there don't know, that tested positive for steroids and got banned from the UFC the first time, only to come back and then, my TRT is exempt everywhere in the world except Brazil. Then Brazil stopped it, and then we saw when he had a drug test, his testosterone level was pretty much that of Goku.
Exactly.
So I'm sitting there thinking, like, okay, you were hopped up. You still lost to Anderson Silva, and you haven't really done anything besides, like Luke Rockhold said, you pulled out a test tube out of your ass and you knocked me out.
Yeah, well, he did that to a few people after he lost to Anderson.
But I agree with Luke Rockhold and Rondo's fighters. I want to see what he can do without it.
Now, the responsibility now falls to the CSAC, and they say that they're going to test him and that Vitor will likely give his word to California as well. They said so now.
What exactly does Vitor Belfort's word mean?
Exactly. Still, I
just want to know.
It was his second failed test with the NASC. They suspended him in 2006 after they also found steroid in his system following Pride 32 in Las Vegas. So there is a history there.
He surpassed history. He has Encyclopedia Britannica when it comes to him and these drug tests. I just don't understand why you just can't train and work hard like everybody else in mixed martial arts.
Well, the guy's been around for a long time, Manny. If you want to stay in, you got to do what you got to do to survive.
But again, there's been a lot of former world champions that didn't, and him is just the greatest thing about Vitor is just he pulls out an IV bag and a test tube and a syringe. That's it.
Well, we'll keep our eye on that, see how the developments for drug testing and for that event in California that will take place for UFC 184, reportedly. Now, Bellator this year is gearing up for their 2014 finale, which is Bellator 131, which takes place November 15th in San Diego. And according to Scott Coker, who is the Bellator MMA CEO, former head of Strikeforce, says that upon they will now go away from weekly events and move more to monthly events to focus more on big fights. Bellator 131 will feature a title fight and have plenty of MMA events, including Stephon Bonner and Tito Ortiz. And the 2015 schedule is looking likely to focus on the more big fights. They're looking at having events next year in San Diego, St. Louis, also Connecticut next year. And they're going to be moving to their monthly events, much I guess like their competitors, the UFC, will be doing. But they're going to be looking
that's the nature of the game because they're trying to compete with the big boys. But again, their headlining bout is a retired guy who was just a brawler on The Ultimate Fighter that never really amounted to nothing, and an aging Tito Ortiz.
Yeah. Well, you got to try what you got. You can only roll with what you got, and that's what they got. So
yeah, unfortunately,
that's
just I'm like, yeah, what else is on?
That's exactly what they got. So
yeah.
Now, in last piece of news, what we have now, and one of the I guess the biggest cases, or stating the obvious statement of the year, was Glover Teixeira, who spoke out this week saying that confident if he got another chance that he could beat UFC light heavyweight champion John Jones. But he said when it comes to the duo's first meeting earlier this year, the champ simply had his number. No, really? So
the hell you say, Lesson? Shut the front door.
So Jones handed Teixeira a unanimous decision loss at UFC 172, and most of the post-event discussion were focused on the champ's eye pokes during the fight. Now,
I swear I have to disagree with him again because eye pokes didn't result in elbows getting his eyebrow cut wide open and John just standing right in front of him just beating him.
Yeah, well, this is what Glover had to say. He said, "I don't think it changed the result." He said, "It wasn't because of the eye pokes that I lost the fight. Jones won that fight. He injured my arm at the start of the fight. He deserves credit for the win. The eye pokes did bother me because it affected my vision a bit." And he said, "But either way, he would have won that fight. That's the truth." Now, Teixeira, of course, took on Phil Davis at UFC 179 last night, and we will talk about that later on. And he said, "Without a doubt, I believe in my potential. I believe in my knockout power. I learned a lot when I fought him." He said, "If I face John Jones again, I would have a great chance. I've learned a lot. I know where I made my mistakes. Now I'm working my way back. At my age, there isn't much time left."
Yeah,
so I'm running
but
after
John
it.
Hackleman and Chuck Liddell were also on social media talking about, yeah, my guy's going to win. And yeah, we saw what happened. John went right on Instagram right after they put that, said, "You mad, bro?"
Yeah, well, a lot of people saw it. The majority of the fans who were watching and tuning into UFC 172 thought that Glover had a great chance of beating John Jones.
Hey, I thought he had a chance until John actually got inside the cage.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, it's not happening.
And he did, like we said, what he did is he takes whatever, that
you're good at
and
neutralizes
it. That's one of the things he's done best.
The thing after when I watched the post-fight press conference at night, everything John did to him was all ad-lib.
Exactly.
There was no, well, we just had this game plan for Glover. Just like, no, John's like, I already know I'm going to do this guy.
Yeah, so that happened, and we'll talk about his fight with Phil Davis later on, and then, so we'll get to that. So that's the news, boys and girls, of news and mixed martial arts. Again, we want to make sure you hear from you guys about UFC 179 last night, and then also WWE's Hell in a Cell. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter at DMVCS, also Instagram at DMVCS2, the number 2, Facebook DMVCS Radio. Of course, we keep our feed going there all week long so that you can see the news all throughout mixed martial arts and combat sports as a whole. And then make sure you follow us on Google Plus and YouTube, DMV Combat Sis. We're going to take a break. After that, we're going to come up and talk about UFC 179, Aldo-Mendes 2. Make sure you guys hit us up. It's DMVCS and the Clinch. We'll be right back.
Oh no, Slasher, yeah. I decided to take the approach here. Yo, but I ain't even first. Yo, get him, dog.
Bruh, I'm a damn soldier. What you say to me is not interesting, so I move you to the spam folder. My clan's bolder, y'all rappers can't flow without your ghostwriter raps. As far as skills, few hands colder. Plan to hit you with the Batman, you understand, Joker? I come to kill these animals. I'm a damn poacher on mics. You never been playing, forever you fame. Forever I'm ahead of the game. I never complain, I never took aim at lames who planes astray unless they come directly up in my shit. They get waved. I'm in the barber phase. Sit on my throne, you'll get a fade. Afterwards, I'm sitting while sipping on a glass of lemonade. This is my turf. I mean, of course, the music scene. By the way, I never gave a damn about your stupid jeans. To hell with the brand name and your champagne. Whack rappers giving MCs like us a bad name.
We on that old school 1-2 shit. We on that true tip hip hop music. Just let your head nod, hands up, lose it, top back, cruising, fill it with your crew shit. Where's my volume? Where's my volume? Where's my volume? Pumping out my boom, where's my volume? Where's my volume? volume? Where's my volume? Don't forget my boombox. This is B-boy sparking, boombox marching, supernova blasting, attack of the Martians. P set the tone, now it's lesson with the arching. Bow and arrow marksman, target set marking. Game in the crosshairs, no dropping it down. Mic sign showing the end, cause it's apocalypse now. Thinking you niggas is fixing it, but your lyrics ridiculous. Gripping these flipping pitches, indifferent and inconspicuous. Lesson in passage, you fucking bastards. His name, he set the passage. Niggas, they couldn't pass it. Faster and faster, like dumping traffic. We attack with lethal flows, you haters just couldn't fathom. Paper or plastic, the game wrapped it. And y'all fools just talking blasted. Rap records is ratchet. Get drastic, then we blast in. Unusual suspects, that's lesson in P, just everlasting. We on that old school, 1-2 shit. We on that true tip, hip hop music. Just let your head nod, hands up, lose it. Top back, cruising, feel it with your crew shit. Where's my volume? Where's my volume? Where's my volume?
We are back with DMVCS in the Clinch.
Clinch on WLVS Radio.
Yes, indeed. We are back here, man. Of course, you guys can watch us all Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Sundays. Listen Vision Live here on WLVS Radio. Lesson, Manny Z in the place to be as we talk a little bit now about UFC 179 last night in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. A grudge match for Jose Aldo versus Chad Mendes. This is Aldo-Mendes 2 for the featherweight championship of the world. This was the rematch, and we see here it was the champ extending in his reign and defeating Chad Mendes by unanimous
cost
decision.
Him a little bit because
it did, yeah.
Chad came to fight, and he's like, well, let's do this. We're going to stand and bang. Let's stand and bang, and he was ready for it.
And what you see here is the end of the first round, where after the bell, Jose got in 2 shots. I guess they're attempting to complete a combination, but this was a very close fight. You see, of course, the state of Jose's face, but these were close rounds, and it seems like Jose did just enough in 4 out of the 5 rounds. But this was a very close fight. A lot of trading. A lot of people are putting that on their list of candidates for Fight of the Year because this was an action-packed filled fight.
Oh yeah, I mean you were on the edge of your seat with this fight. It wasn't like the fence grab gate that happened the first time. When Chad had a secure takedown. For some reason, the ref did not see Jose Aldo grabbing the fence not once but twice. Yeah, now that was unanimous decision 49-46 all the way across the board for Jose Aldo and Chad Mendes. Chad snapping his 5-fight lose streak, as you saw there. The last fight he lost before that was to Jose Aldo. Yeah, but everybody else he'd been steamrolling.
TKO body punch to Cody McKenzie. Knockout of Yatsen Meza. Darren Elkins, TKO punches. Clay Guida, TKO punches. And Nick Lentz, a unanimous decision. He was very motivated by that last fight. Chad Mendes did a lot of talking leading up to this, including the delay by the injury to Jose Aldo and his camp, and delaying this fight that was supposed to take place originally for UFC, I believe it was UFC 177.
Yeah, but they had to postpone because Jose got hurt. So.
Exactly. So what we saw here was not like you said the fence grab gate that we had last time.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you clearly saw Jose grab the fence when Chad had secured the double leg, and the ref didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then the second time, of course, when Brazil was celebrating like, again, they won World Cup because he knocked him out. Say, of course, I'd knock somebody out too if I grabbed the fence.
Yeah. And a lot of contention about that and a lot of words being said.
Oh, they had bad blood ever since the daggone media day when they shoved each other. I was like,
course.
you guys about to fight on media day?
Yeah.
We just supposed to take pictures, homie.
We're taking pictures, homie. And so now, Jose, well, it just keeps on rolling on. 25-1 now in mixed martial arts. How many in a row is it? I don't know. I stopped counting.
Yeah, I stopped counting a long time ago after he knocked out Mike Brown to secure the WEC title. It just, again, he's probably going to be the successor, if not the successor, to Anderson Silva. Yeah, and so now what we see now with Jose, we'll see if that Conor McGregor fight is coming on the horizon after this Dennis Seaver fight with... My message to Conor McGregor and his fans, when you get in the cage with Jose, pack a lunch. So... we shall see. The co-main event of the evening with Phil Davis and Glover Teixeira, light heavyweight bout there. Phil Davis, of course, the last fight that we saw him in was a very listless performance against Anthony Rumble Johnson at UFC 172. We're looking a lot better this time around against Glover Teixeira, Manny. Oh, hell yeah, he did. He went back to his roots. Yeah, so what we saw here is exactly what Phil Davis does best. A little bit of timely striking, but this is what he does. On the ground, ground and pound, wrestling, grappling. This is a guy who was an All-American and national champion in college at wrestling,
and against a guy like Glover who stands and wants to bang. But this is what he did. Scrambled and took him to the ground. Phil Davis, unanimous decision against Glover Teixeira last night, taking all the rounds, 30-27, 30-27, 30-27, and that was getting him back on the line. And to me, Manny, as we talked about this before the show, it was almost like an exact blueprint of what he did with Lyoto Machida. Almost the exact same game plan. A guy who was a very deadly striker. Like, listen, I'm gonna strike timely, and then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna go for the takedowns, and I'm gonna grapple and make this a wrestling match. And that's what you got to do. So now Glover Teixeira, after a huge run, now his second straight loss. Of course, he lost to John Jones at UFC 172, but he losing to Phil Davis now, and now Glover Teixeira staring deeply at the age of 34, just turned 34 this year. So he, as he said, his time is running out in mixed martial arts.
Yeah, because again, like I said, when it comes to guys in this division, let alone the top 10, if John Jones is the youngest champion in the sport, you got guys coming in younger, stronger, hungry, faster, that they want their crack at the title too, and they're not going to sit on the sideline.
It's kind of funny when you look at Phil Davis and you see what he does in his career, and you see how when he sticks to his base and he fights that are a good fit for him. Look at what we talked about. Glover Teixeira win last night in unanimous decision. Lyoto Machida last night win unanimous decision. Okay, now he had a unanimous decision win against Vinny Mahogles. He looked okay there. A loss to Rashad Evans, lost to Anthony Johnson. Now he is, to be fair with Phil is 13-2. So it's not like he's
it's not like he's a scrub.
But it seems like whenever he gets in those fights where he fights against Anthony Johnson and Rashad Evans, who both have strong wrestling backgrounds and guys who can also strike as well, the guys who can do both, and consistently do both,
it becomes a problem
for him. But when he faces guys like Glover and guys like Lyoto Machida who want to try to stand and bang, then
because that's all they have. I mean, we saw that when Lyoto fought Chris Weidman.
Yeah,
Chris Weidman, another All-American. What happened?
If you have great takedown defense, you can beat this guy. But if he learns how to be able to land more takedowns against the top guys, he could actually have his name in the conversation. And if he can be consistent, he can string together some wins. He can get back in the conversation.
I totally agree with Phil doing it, because remember at one point he was unbeaten.
Yeah. And Mr. Wonderful now, 30 years old, of course, the All-American, formerly at Penn State.
Yeah, Nittany Lions. But I always tell Phil fans, the only thing I like is just, why the sugar pink shorts?
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't get any other color.
So that is Phil. He winning over Glover Teixeira in unanimous decision. The next fight on the card, Fabio Maldonado, a light heavyweight match against Hans Stringer. And this was a fight that very entertaining and ended in the first round. And what you see here is Fabio Maldonado against Hans Stringer, really taking the fight to him, getting the fight down there on the ground, and then being able to secure top position here, and then go for the ground and pound and really end this fight. And so what you see here is with Stringer attempting to wrestle with him, but eventually it was TKO by punches. Very interesting moment after the fight. Fabio Maldonado celebrates on the cage with none other than Anderson the Spider Silva,
who basically, once again, is the unofficial, if not the mayor, not the governor, not the Secretary of Defense, the official guy down in Brazil. They just went apeshit the minute he came.
Yeah, and that was they have had a bit of a falling out, Maldonado and the Spider did, Manny. And that was a show of them burying the hatchet, and eventually Anderson, very happy for Fabio last night. He had a very big win after losing to Stipe Miocic at the Ultimate Fighter 3 Brazil finale by TKO in the first round to Stipe Miocic. And there was a lot of talk about that, but he's able to get a win over Hans Stringer yesterday at UFC 179. A knockout by punches with 4:06 left in the second round there at UFC 179 in Brazil. Now looking at the rest of the card, also featherweight matchup between Darren Elkins and Lucas Martins, a split decision there. Very interesting fight there. There's a lot of, after the Maldonado fight, things kind of
it kind of tapered off. It was basically like, I I guess you want some nachos?
Yeah, exactly. Now it took a while to get there, but they got there now. Now Elkins now is 2-2 in his last 4 fights, losing to Chad Mendes and also Jeremy Stevens by unanimous decisions, and then defeating Hatsu Hiyoki, and then defeating Lucas Martins last night. Also on the card was earlier on in the evening was Wilson Reese defeating Scott Jorgensen by a arm triangle choke in the prelims earlier on in the night. Scott, of course, Jorgensen is now after winning against Danny Martinez at UFC Fight Night Henderson versus Kabilov, lost now to Wilson Reese. He has now lost 4 out of his last 5 fights, including losses along the way to Uriah Faber and Jussier Formiga along the way as well.
Well, again, against Uriah Faber, that was textbooks. It's Uriah Faber.
Yeah.
But he's on that verge like a lot of guys. When you go on that 4 to 5, damn near 6 fight skid, that's when the execs come calling.
And you might want to start looking for your phone to start ringing to be like, Coach wants to see you. Bring your playbook.
Yeah. It's coming.
The coach wants to see you. Bring your playbook.
It's coming.
So that's UFC 179. Jose Aldo still champion of the world. We'll see if there's another Chad Mendes fight, because I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be too mad if we saw a 3.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be. So.
Yeah, I mean, it just, again, I still have Brazil ringing in my ear. And still campeón, Jose Aldo Jr.
Yeah. So that's what we have, man. UFC 179. Again, we're going to take a break in a quick second. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about UFC 130 light heavyweight champion Emmanuel Newton, and of course one of our crossovers athletes that we talk about, and not only mixed martial arts for wrestling, Bobby Lashley. So we're going to talk about Bellator 130. We'll come right back. It's DMVCS in the Clinch. Make sure you guys are hitting us up on Twitter at DMVCS. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Let it build. Let it build. Let it build. I go ahead and make it let build. It build. Let it build a little bit. Too many of y'all rushing out there. Let it build. All up on the cash. It's all good. Let it build. Let it build. Ah, yes. Let's begin. Lesson on the lyrics in the track once again. Yeah. If your head nod and run back and tell a friend, snares pumping with the soul clap, the strings make it blend. I'ma hold this meeting, let your eardrums attend. Please. Just a minute for my real G's on this depends. Rhyming since I'm 13 and ain't shit changed. Set the game and its many moves allow me to explain. We went from hip hop, rapping, flossing, then trapping, hustling and turned up. What the hell is happening? Hey. Everyone's a rapper and some niggas skills is lacking. Kill it off and resurrect, creeds to assassin. Punch it when I double up. Why the hell you asking? Guns blazed, ante up, cold as ice and aspen. Back to bring the game back. Oh, you didn't know? New age now when I'm outlawed. Double X to the throne. Now let it build. Let it build. Let it build. Let it build. Now let it build. Let it build. My nigga, just let it build. Let it build. Let it build. Now let it build. Let it build. Now let it build. Let it build. My nigga, just let it build. Let it build. Let it build. Now let it build. Let it build. Now let it build. Let it build. My nigga, just let it build, let it build, let it build, now let it build, let it build, now let it build, let it build, my nigga, just let it build. All I'm hearing now is yap, 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 then it's followed up by trap, 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 what the fuck is that? Yup, copying ass niggas on the game, it's on repeat, it's like you niggas scared to let it build, right, and then compete. Yeah, and then we got these soft ass niggas between the sheets, true, pillow fighting with clouds and feathers and talking sweet, and me, I got some heat for the streets, with some banger beats and bass lines and great rhymes to make it complete. I'm constantly on my hustle, but I'm not a trap star. I'm in my lane, maintaining speed like a track star. It's on and popping from here, cause ain't no stopping, it's clear. I'm elevating, do waiting, no faking without a peer. No placating, forsaking this game for these rappers here. Just shake and bake, no mistaking, I'm breaking these jokers clear. You want me to dumb it down, you clown? Then here it goes, step your game up, get your weight up, and let it flow. Now let it build, let it build, let it build, let it build. Now let it build, let it build, my nigga, just let it build, let it build.
Yo, what up? What up? We are back here with DMVCS in the Clinch.
In the Clinch.
It's Lesson to my right, the man in the place to be, Mandy Z. As always, every Sunday night, we want to thank you once again for taking a little bit of time out of your Sunday evening to spending that time with us. Of course, this Sunday evening, man. Everything is all love. And we just wrapped up UFC 179. We also want to talk now about Bellator 130, Manny, and a very entertaining card. Now we talk shit. We talk shit about Bellator here, and they don't.
Because it's the Viacom brand.
It's FCS and college football.
Yeah,
it's the junior varsity. But while they do have some name recognition, but they had some very entertaining fights last night. Or excuse me, this Friday at Bellator 130. This, of course, included the main event between light heavyweight champion Emmanuel Newton against Linton Vassell. Now, what we had here is this bout between them. And 3 different times during this bout between Linton Vassell, a 5-round fight, 3 different times, 3 different submission holds locked in. A rear naked choke attempt right there, you see.
And it was deep.
From side,
he scrambles out.
From side, he scrambles out of that.
You see a Kimura lock right there.
The attempt of a Kimura here. I mean, you could think any point in time, he gets any one of these locked in, we got a new champion. And you see here him applying pressure to the neck.
Yeah, squeezing.
Up against with the attempt of the rear naked choke here, up against the cage.
And you see his tongue biting through his mouth guard. You think it's over, and then, like an 80s movie hero, Emmanuel Newton just rises up.
In the championship round, this is when he did it. He was able to get him down on the ground on a takedown. And then he got this here on a scramble. Now look at this transition here by Emmanuel Newton. Look at what happens. Bam. Takes the back, gets in the submission, rear naked choke, and then locks that in. Now, Mike, I don't know if you can rewind that for us, man. Right to that point, back to here. Just look at this transition here. Just look at this.
It's like
he has him right here.
Video game. Look at that.
Spins around,
right analog,
grabs it, boom, locks in the choke, and gets that in. Now, with 47 seconds into the 5th round, that's what happens. He gets a submission by rear naked choke. Emmanuel Newton, here, you got to just see it again. I mean, just look at that transition around. I mean, after a guy who 3 different times, this fight could have ended if this.
The fight should have been over at least like 2 rounds ago.
If he gets those locked in, and here he just makes him tap, and he knew he had him in. And of course, you see the theatrics afterward with Emmanuel Newton. This guy retaining once again the light heavyweight championship of the world of Bellator 130. I mean, that is just textbook.
And that's why I continue to say I said this before the show. Lester, give me my conjugal.
Yes, absolutely.
Emmanuel Newton, who I like for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
The guy fights like an 80s movie hero. You think you have his number, and then somewhere along the way, the montage music rises up. He rises to the occasion, and he's that dude. I mean, the last fight we saw 2 consecutive spinning back fists. I didn't think you could do that in real life.
Exactly. And this is, again, we talked about this, and I was just going to mention this. His win against Joey Beltran at Bellator 124. For those of you who haven't seen it, if you can YouTube it or Google it, look it up. This KO with a spinning back fist against Joey Beltran.
Twice. I was just like, again, he's an 80s action hero. Like, did he hit him with the same consecutive move? And Joey Beltran standing right in front of him, just taking it.
And that was in the 3rd round of that fight. So this is just wonderful. Now Emmanuel Newton, his 7th straight win. He now has a record of 25-7-1 in Bellator, and this is his 7th straight win. The last loss that he suffered was to Attila V at Bellator 72. At Bellator 72, but he avenged that on Bellator 113 by a split decision. And just spectacular here. Look at this again.
I mean, again, this is the same guy who trains with Team Wolfslayer out in Great Britain, trains with Rampage and Michael Bisping. And I knew when he knocked out King Mo in 60 seconds, that's when I said this young man's official.
Yeah. Well, he's defeated King Mo on this run at Bellator 90. Beat him twice, actually. First, by a spinning back, by that vaunted spinning back fist. At Bellator 90, then at Bellator 106 by unanimous decision, and that is when he won the Bellator Light Heavyweight Championship. That was of November 2nd last year. So Emmanuel Newton, once again, victorious, this time over Linton Vassell.
He's the 80s action hero of MMA.
Yeah.
Remember, I coined that phrase first.
Yeah, you got it. You got it, my friend. You got it. You absolutely got it. Now, also, the co-main event of this was a heavyweight bout between our friend, Manny, Bobby Lashley against Carl Etherington. Now, Carl Etherington was undefeated. Bobby Lashley, now his 2nd bout in Bellator MMA. Bobby Lashley, of course, formerly of WWE, and most recently also of TNA. He was the TNA heavyweight champion.
And the takedown and just the pounding starts.
The pounding. Now, let's just get something straight here. Bobby Lashley is 6'2", 245 or 50 pounds of beast. I mean, you look at the way the guy's put together. He is really a superbly put together athlete, Manny.
Of course, he was a Division I All-American.
Absolutely. You see this here. Now, he made Featherton submit to strikes. He tapped on strikes.
Something I haven't seen done since Chuck Liddell was in the octagon. That's how you know this man has bombs.
I mean, and you just look at that and you see that
back
there.
trip, takedown, mount, and he just puts in the
strikes.
work.
And this was going on. This fight was over fairly quickly. It was a first round decision, 131 into the first round. And he just knocking him down, just strikes against strikes, and then hitting him. He's like, "Oh, I don't want any more. Stop.
Yeah, just stop.
Just stop." I mean, you just look at a guy like Bobby Lashley, man. He looks. I mean, he's a heavyweight. He is a guy now again that looks very impressive. And you know what? It takes some. That takes a little bit of credit for a guy to be able to go from wrestling then over to mixed martial arts. I mean, this is a guy that was in a not even a month ago was TNA heavyweight championship champion.
But see, the thing a lot of people don't realize is, like I mentioned earlier, Bobby Lashley, Sergeant Lashley, of course, him being retired military veteran,
absolutely, was
also an All-American wrestler in the military.
Yes,
where he competed on the Olympic level.
Yes, and now he is 38 years old. We have seen him, of course, in OVW. We've also seen him in ECW. We've seen him for WWE. He's also did some independent work, Total Nonstop, TNA in 2009, on the independent circuit, back to TNA. In mixed martial arts now, he is 12-2. And, he has done some work. Like I said, to be able to do that, we saw Brock Lesnar do it. We saw him leave wrestling.
Yeah, but Brock was just one-dimensional. And I'm going to tackle you.
Yeah, we've seen him. And we saw also Brock come back, get spectacularly knocked out by Cain Velasquez. Then Alistair Overeem, but what we call the liver kick from hell that he gave him that knocked him out.
It sure was.
And due to the diverculitis, we know Brock had to stop fighting in the UFC.
I still say it's because he feared the ring.
Yeah, and then not only that, but he has the cushiest job ever serving as current WWE World Heavyweight Champion.
He's the biggest paper champion the WWE's ever saw. I just win the belt and that's it.
Yeah.
I just sit at home and just hunt elk up in Canada.
Just goes to show you what we talk about as far as these fighters. And we also talk about, with Brock and him going back and forth between. Now there's even talking now that Brock may land back in mixed martial arts. But
he comes back to the UFC, and if it's not Overeem, Cain Velasquez is going to whoop that ass.
Yeah, and what we have here with Bobby Lashley, this is now his 5th win in a row. After defeating out Carl Ellington, and his last fight he won by submission by rear naked choke. Now, he's going to be able to get his chops in Bellator, but obviously if he's going to want to make it mixed martial arts style, he's going to have to see, is there now he's 38 years old. Will Dana take a flyer on a guy like that, on Bobby Lashley?
I don't see why not, because have you seen Bobby Lashley? It's not like he's out of shape eating Big Macs.
The guy
is cut out of granite.
The guy is, if you've seen the previews for the new Halo movie that is coming out, he looks like
he looks like one of the Space Marines. Like he's going to go out there and fight the Covenant and kick ass and chew bubblegum at the same time.
He looks like Locke. I mean, seriously. I mean, absolutely. Like he's entered in suit, ready for war.
Well, I think for me, he kind of looked more like Coltrane from Gears of War.
Yeah. So
you don't want none. Put the Coltrane in.
So that's Bellator 130, of course. Gotta love the references, man. Bellator 131 will be the finale on November 15th, and then Bellator goes to a whole new schedule. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back for our last segment, and it is a fun one because yet another MMA superstar has found himself as a wanted suspect in a situation that could have been avoided. Who are we talking about? It was War Machine. Now we're talking Mayhem. We're going to let you know what we're talking about when we come back from this break.
The woman beat him to a psychopath. Right?
Like when we come back from break. It's DMVCS and the Clinch lesson. Manny Z and the place to be. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Yeah. It's like some niggas pop mollies, smoke weed, drink liquor to get high. Yeah, I just stay high off life, Check me out. Yo, I gotta do it big, cause I can't live this life twice. Say what you want, I stay overdose on life. Yo, I gotta do it big, cause I can't live this life twice. Say what you want, I stay overdose on life. I stay overdose on life. Damn, what the hell I'm thinking? I'm sitting behind that wheel and I can't stop drinking. The Patron in my system, it got me gone as fuck. Damn, I hope I don't hit them. And all I see is purple rain. The girl riding next to me, all she do is fucking complain. Are we just me on how I bottle my pain? If you seen the shit I've been through, then you would do the same. But it's all good. Shit, life be keeping me on the high. I do this shit all again as long as I don't die. Let me enjoy every moment to occupy my mind. You can judge who you want, I'm just having a good time. Turn up, like I'm on the come up. I'm fucking up my liver like I ain't even the owner. Riding around my city doing parking lot donuts. Living life like the fuck I wanna. You feel me? I gotta do it big, cause I can't live this life twice. Say what you want, I stay overdose on life. I stay overdose on life. Yo, I gotta do it big, cause I can't live this life twice. Say what you want, I stay overdose on life. I stay overdose on life.
Yo, I just had another dream. I was falling out the sky in the world with a stain. Of things aren't always what they seem, but the patterns keep forming, so I wonder what they mean. We all go through the motions, swaying in the breeze, thoughts rumble like the oceans. Life is narcotics and our feelings are the potion. Catch a hangover if you deep in your emotions. It's a heavy dosage, constantly we going overload. One too many, maybe not, while we falling overboard. High is a kite off life, intoxicated off existence, persistence with that dynamite. Rehabs the plans, death that you speak not. Chronic living like I'm Dr. Dre, no detox. Getting drunk off the hating and I'm wasted off the love. That's why I'm sweating off the drama, why you wonder what it does.
Yo, I gotta do it big, cause I can't live this life twice. Say what you want, I stay overdose on life. Stay overdose on life. Yo, I gotta do it big, cause I can't live this life twice. Say what you want, I stay overdose on life. I stay overdose on life. Yo, I gotta do it big. Yo, I gotta do it big. Can't live this life twice. Can't live this life twice. Say what you want, I stay overdose on life. Life. Say what you want, I stay overdose on life.
Yo, what up? We are back with DMVCS in the Clinch. It is Lesson with Manny Z and the place to be. DMVCS in the Clinch on WLVS Radio. ListenVisionLive.com. Every Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Sundays where you guys can catch us, man. But, of course, we're getting ready to wrap up the show. But we would be greatly remiss, Manny, if we did not mention this situation that happened over the last month with us being off of the air, talking about the situation with Jason Mayhem Miller. Now, those of you who are not
again.
Now, those of you who
again.
Those of you who are not familiar with Jason Mayhem Miller, he's a former UFC Strike Force and Dream Fighter, 28-9, and again involved with a situation with the law. And this time, he actually live tweeted the entire incident. Now, Miller said that, as according to him, he said a regiment, quote, a regiment of wannabe soldiers, unquote, arrived at his Mission Viejo, California home on October the 9th to serve a warrant for his arrest. Now, a KTLA.com report confirmed that Orange County Sheriff's Departments were indeed on the scene and elected to call in SWAT for assistance when Miller barricaded himself inside the house.
Yeah, after they told him to come out.
Yeah.
And he decided
not to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, SWAT doesn't just show up in your neighborhood in the middle of the day unless you don't did some shit.
Exactly. Now, Lieutenant Jeff Halleck of the Orange County Sheriff's Department told KTLA.com, said he retreated into the house, was uncooperative with any of the commands by the sheriff deputies, and based on that, we established a perimeter, called out the SWAT team, and now we're in process of establishing communication with him inside of the house. Now, Miller, who had previously been arrested on a handful of occasions,
just his daggone rap sheet reads like the daggone Yellow Pages.
Now, began tweeting at 11:12 Pacific time, describing his view of the scene. Now, I'm just going to read a few of these tweets as they go along.
Oh, God. Yeah, this is pure comedy fight, fans.
Now, the night, 2:12 p.m., he says, I need to tell everyone that the absolute waste of resources going on outside of my house. I'm counting no less than 5 officers. Then, at 2:13, he says they have allocated the use of a chopper, which cost approximately $12,000. He knows he's been arrested so much, he knows the budget costs on these things, man.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows the math or something like that in your city?
$12,000 an hour to operate, also taken away from real emergencies and caps. He said they've threatened me with a dog bite and have amassed a great force that includes a spotter in neighbors' yards and an uncharismatic man who continues to remind me that they are here to serve a warrant for my arrest. I have not committed any crime, but yet I am forced here. He said, fearing for my safety and safety of my dog, at Gator Hot Dog.
What?
I guess his dog has a Twitter account. All this could have been avoided had the state of California provided at 219 mental health services for one single mother immigrant from the Philippines who I know was well-intentioned but has a mental condition. Now I have to pay
he
a debt.
doesn't?
Now I have to pay a debt for her mistakes. Oh, wait, but it gets better. If you would like to see this drama unfold, please come to 26262 Avenida Caledad, Mission Viejo, California, 92691. God bless. That was at 221. Really in the stream of consciousness. And then says later, now they were there to serve an arrest warrant for alleged stalking at the home. And he continued to tweet as the situation unfolded. And at 2:26, he says, per usual, they have an army, and I am just me. He says, just don't let them shoot me. At 2:27, I have the proper paperwork at my office and at Vapors Lab Irvine. I was due to go to court this morning, but the LFPD chased me all last night. He said, I woke up late and couldn't leave because there's a highly equipment regiment of wannabe soldiers outside my house reminding me that. 2:30. At 2:30, he says, we won't go away. All of this, I wanted to help raise a young boy into a man, and his mama went off her meds, and ambitious DA thinks mayhem is bad, in all cap letters. 2:32, he said, mayhem is good, all cap letters. Then he said, all cap letters, 2:33, we all at Mayhem Miller. He tweeted at himself, and he said at 2:34, yeah, so this is serious. Then, eventually, he tweeted out saying, what was that address again? He answered his own tweet about the one of his address.
So he's talking to himself.
Then he says, I wish you no harm. I respect the police, but this is overkill for something that would be settled with one piece of paperwork from OC bail. He says, I see a literal armored personal carrier pulling up. They're trying to murder me. I just want a peaceful solution. He goes on and says, I did nothing wrong. This is the state of American justice. I feel you black men. They fear. So they threaten to take our lives. Abhorrent. And then he used the SAT word, abhorrent.
And he's using SAT words?
Yeah.
Wow.
Then he said, you lie. As a tweet from the OC Sheriff Department's office said that they're attempting to communicate with subject inside. He replied back to them, you lie. All he has yelled into a squeaky buzzing is, Jason Miller, this is the OCSD, at OCSD. We have a warrant for your arrest. Come outside. That was it. And he says, now they broke my window with some box with a phone in it with AR-15s. They are terrified, and they have all the guns, scaring my hot dog.
Scaring his hot dog.
So that's just some of the stuff he says. Then one of his actual fans said to him, at Mayhem Miller, lucky you're not black or they would have been shot you by now.
Yeah, exactly. Again, with the racial epithets on Twitter, son.
So Miller hasn't fought professionally since he lost in May 2012 to CB Dalloway at UFC 146.
I thought it was the ass-beating Michael Bisping put on him.
He has notable career victories over Tim Kennedy, Robbie Lawler, and Kazuki Sakuraba, among others. And he's unsuccessfully challenged for both the Strikeforce and Dream middleweight titles. Now, he's no stranger to the judicial system. He was arrested in 2013, and 1 year prior, he was arrested on suspicion of burglary. So Mayhem has quite the checkered past. If you go see more, I picked these up at MMAJunkie.com, but they're all over the internet. And then Mayhem got out of jail, and he has been still talking.
Out on bail after all that.
Somebody needs to get Mayhem his meds ASAP.
No, he needs to have a nice confined padded cell in Arkham.
So that's all of our time, man. We just wanted to pass that along to you. We're off next week, man. We just want to make sure that we tell you guys to make sure you follow us on all of our social media, at DMVCS on Twitter, at DMVCS2 on Instagram, at DMVCS Radio on Facebook, and then also DMVCS Combat Systems on Google Plus and YouTube. That's all of our time. Until next time, this is Blessing with Manny Z in the place to be. It's DMVCS in the Clinch. Make sure you catch us when you can, man. You guys
Shout out
take care.
to my boy Dante. We out.
And we out.
This game, your time. Is it now? Insane. This game for the crown. Is it now? Stakes high, put it down. This game, your time, put it down.